Both sides filed something with Judge Liman today that looks like a routine scheduling request. But when you actually read what each side proposed, it quietly reveals something about how Blake Lively's legal team is thinking about the next stage of this case, and that part is worth paying attention to. Here is what happened. The parties went to Judge Liman and asked for a small adjustment to the pretrial schedule. Everyone is still waiting for the court to rule on the motions that could decide whether this case even goes to trial, and that ruling is going to shape what this case looks like going forward. Both sides acknowledged that point directly in the filing. They explained that the judge's decision could affect which claims survive and which ones disappear, which naturally affects how the parties prepare their pretrial submissions. What they wrote in the filing is that the court's ruling may help focus the issues. In federal court language, that is a polite way of saying some of these claims may not survive the ruling. Blake's team agreed to a 1-week extension. The current deadlines would shift forward slightly, and everything would continue to run on fixed calendar dates. Under that proposal, the parties would submit their pretrial filings on April 3rd, follow-up pretrial motions would be due April 10th, and any challenges to expert witnesses would follow on April 17th. If you are not a lawyer, that last category is worth explaining. A Daubert motion is the mechanism one side uses to ask a judge to exclude the other side's expert witness before the case ever reaches a jury. It determines whether someone like Professor Ashley Humphreys, the expert I spoke about in the last video that Blake paid $900 an hour to calculate her so-called damages, actually gets to testify at trial, or whether her entire analysis is thrown out before the jury ever hears it. When you see expert witness challenges on a schedule like this, that is what is actually at stake. Wayfarer did something a little more interesting. They told the court they were not opposing Blake's 1-week extension, but they also offered the judge a second option to consider. Instead of using fixed calendar dates at all, they suggested tying the deadlines directly to whenever Judge Liman issues his ruling. Their proposal would start the clock after the ruling arrives, giving the parties 21 days to submit pretrial filings, followed by 1 week for follow-up pretrial motions, and another week for any expert witness challenges if necessary. Blake's team declined that second option. It is not a complicated proposal. If the judge is about to issue a ruling that could eliminate claims from the case, it does not make much sense to spend weeks preparing pretrial materials for claims that may not even exist by the time those filings are due. Linking the deadlines to the ruling solves that problem in a clean and logical way. The court rules first, everyone sees what survives, and the parties prepare for the case that actually remains. So the question becomes, why Blake's team would refuse that structure? The moment you tie your schedule to the ruling, you are implicitly acknowledging that it might change the shape of the case. If you genuinely believed every claim you brought was about to survive untouched, the difference between fixed deadlines and floating deadlines would not matter very much. The calendar works the same either way because the underlying case does not change. But if you are not completely certain what the judge is about to do, fixed deadlines suddenly become a lot more comfortable. Predictability becomes valuable because you know exactly when the next filings will land and exactly how much time you have to prepare them. There is also a practical dimension here that is easy to overlook, and I think it is the more revealing part. Fixed calendar dates allow a legal team to plan around the timing of major filings. Statements can be prepared in advance, responses can be coordinated, and the narrative around those filings can be shaped with some degree of control. Blake's team has treated the public messaging around this litigation very deliberately from the beginning, and a predictable schedule serves that approach in ways a floating timeline simply cannot. Once the schedule is tied directly to the ruling, that predictability disappears because the clock starts running the moment the decision drops, and the parties have to react in real time instead of planning around known deadlines. Wayfarer handled this filing in a way that is strategically careful. They made it clear to the court that they are not opposing Blake's proposal. They are not asking the judge to slow the case down or disrupt the schedule he has been maintaining. They simply offered an alternative structure that would make sense if the ruling is coming relatively soon. That posture matters because it presents them as cooperative while still placing the alternative directly in front of the judge. If you have been following this case for any length of time, you already know that dynamic is not new. Wayfarer agreeing to something while Blake refuses, it has been a pattern in this litigation for months, and it continues to show up in the filings. By presenting a schedule that only works if the ruling arrives soon, Wayfarer is also reminding the court that the entire case is currently waiting on that decision. They are not complaining about the delay, and they are not demanding action from the judge. They are simply acknowledging the reality out loud and putting a structure on the table that signals they are ready to move the moment the ruling drops. The most likely outcome is that Judge Liman accepts the 1-week extension with fixed dates. Courts tend to prefer predictable schedules, and he has already worked to keep this trial on track for May. A floating timeline tied to his own ruling introduces uncertainty he may not want to build into the calendar. What I will be watching is how quickly the court responds to this request and which option it ultimately chooses. If Liman adopts Wayfarer's alternative structure, it suggests he believes his decision is close enough that tying the deadlines to it will not disrupt the schedule. If he sticks with Blake's fixed dates without comment, it likely means the ruling is not ready yet. Either way, this filing is less about scheduling logistics and more about what it reveals. Blake Lively's team was given a more logical option that would have saved everyone time, money, and unnecessary work. They said no, and that refusal is sitting in the public court record right now, quietly telling you everything you need to know about how confident they actually are in what that ruling is going to say. Right now, the entire case is paused, waiting for one ruling. The moment Judge Liman issues it, we will go through it piece by piece and see exactly how much of this lawsuit is still standing. If you want to see that analysis when it drops, subscribe to the channel because the next big update in this case is probably going to be the one that actually matters.
That's my opinion!